Welcome into the Cowboys Report, an absolutely loaded news show for you guys. Today kept pushing stuff back because other stuff kept coming out. Michael Gallup surgery plus some others undergoing it. Latest on the offensive coordinator search, a new name has emerged and the offensive line coach has been hired. Potential Dak Prescott extension and possibly drafting a quarterback here. And we can say goodbye, at least for now, to the Sean Payton rumors. But first, are you glad that the Cowboys have ended Tom Brady's career? He's retiring. He goes out in a blowout loss at the hands of the Dallas Cowboys, a game far too many of us somehow forgot. But if you're glad that the bad man's gone, like the video right now. First of several news items of the day, the Cowboys have hired an offensive line coach. Mike Solari is joining the organization. He does have some Mike McCarthy-led ties there. He's a longtime offensive line coach. Actually did not coach this past year. Was with the Seahawks from 2018 to 2021. I believe, if I remember correctly, lost out to the job that Mark Colombo eventually got in Dallas. Giants offensive line coach, spent a year in Green Bay as an assistant offensive line coach in 2015. Niners offensive line coach, again with Seattle. The Chiefs, he was a coordinator briefly there, was also the O-line coach, Bama O-line coach, and also spent time with Dallas 1987 to 88 as an assistant offensive line coach. So a longtime veteran comes in, replacing the invited to not return Joe Philbin. Now to Michael Gallup, the surgery news on this front. Gallup had a minor cleanup procedure, although it is a surgery still, on both his right knee and his right ankle. Of course, worth mentioning that Gallup tore his left ACL last season. Here's what Michael Gelkin, who broke the news, reported. Gallup had his right knee and right ankle both scoped. Two people with knowledge of the session said Tuesday. Despite the minimally invasive meniscus repair and ankle cleanup, the plan is for Gallup to be a full participant when the Cowboys formally reconvene in April for the start of their spring workout program. This is one of the minor cleanup stuff that a lot of players get. Three other guys got. I'll get to that here in a little bit, by the way. But it was very clear to everyone watching, Michael Gallup wasn't right in 2022. Something was off. Coming off of the torn ACL, Michael Gallup had his worst season by a massive margin. 14 games, 424 yards and 4 scores, flashed against the Bucs and then was a non-factor again against the 49ers. Coming out of breaks, he didn't look right. Coming back to the football, he wasn't fighting for it the way he normally does. He was still good in the end zone and along the sideline, but he made comments coming back from the injury. He didn't feel quite right. I think that was still the case. You need good Gallup back, and you need him back quickly because this receiving core with Noah Brown, T.Y. Hilton, even if they're both back, isn't good enough. You paid Michael Gallup to be your number 2 wide receiver, and he wasn't close to good enough in the end. That should raise some fairly significant red flags moving forward. I'm hoping Gallup bounces back because I need him to. Otherwise, he's going to get cut next offseason. There's no way you pay him what he's getting paid if he doesn't return to the prime Gallup 1,000-yard receiver. Neither the quarterback or the receiver have ever been truly healthy since that year, and Gallup's numbers have suffered significantly because of it. So as it relates for 2023, what is your confidence level in Michael Gallup? Scale it for me from 1 to 10 at the pinned comments of today's video. Some other surgery news mentioned as part of the impromptu Jones's Senior Bowl conversations. Luke Gifford had core muscle surgery, so that's painful, but he'll be okay. Malik, you probably saw it. His thumb wrapped a bunch this year. Had the surgery to fix that issue there. And Tyron Smith, once again, underwent minor knee surgery, which maybe raises some red flags given all the issues he's had. It's all minor. Maybe the core muscle is the most impactful there from that standpoint. That's not a fun surgery to undergo. Along with Michael Gallup, all 3 guys, in theory, unless, Tyron Smith calls it a career and retires or gets cut, should be ready to go with plenty of time for the start of the off-season program, just like Gallup will be. Today's Cowboys Report is sponsored by Fume. We all have bad habits, and we certainly know how hard it can be to kick those bad habits. Our sponsor, Fume, is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. I didn't expect much out of Fume when I got it, but it's got a good minty sensation. It's powerful, hits the back of the throat, and the Journey Pack comes with 3 unique flavors for you to enjoy: maple pepper, crisp mint, and my preferred flavor, the maple cranberry. Important to note that Fume is not a vape. It's a non-electronic device designed to transform your negative habits. The easiest way to stop a bad habit is make the switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed perfectly to do just that. Head to tryfume.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS. Save an additional 10% off on your order today. Links in the comments section and the description of today's show. More news is Stephen Jones. This has been said many times before, do make note. So the Cowboys are committed to Dak Prescott long-term, hoping he's the guy the next 10 years. That would make him like almost 40, which is probably asking for a little bit too much, but hey, we can dream, right? And they're open to extending him. Now, I will make note that the Cowboys had said for years before actually getting their long-term deal done, we want to get it done. We believe in him, blah, blah, blah. Dak's got 2 years left on his deal, and nobody wants to pay Dak at his current cap hit, $49.13 million. Cutting him doesn't make any sense. A trade after June 1st does. A restructure would save you almost $22.4 million. An extension, regardless of almost whatever you pay him, would actually bring down that cap hit even a little bit further with the way you're able to manipulate the salary cap. And if you do the deal now, it's going to look a lot cheaper once Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson all get what would likely be record-setting contracts. So with that in mind, and we'll go more in depth on this, would you extend Dak Prescott? Why for yes and for no? I know what a lot of the answers are going to be, but get in the comments section, let me know right now. I would like to remind everyone you do have a top 10 quarterback, and although it is perfectly understandable to be upset about the way things ended again this year, he's actually had 2 bad playoff games in his career, and it's not easy to replace those top 10 QBs. Also make note of this. The market for quarterbacks only go up, and there will be sticker shock. We've had that conversation for years here on the Cowboys Report. The options are pay the market rate or don't and lose him, whether it's via free agency trade. And if you want to lose him, okay. But do know what the market is. The 5 highest paid quarterbacks from a per year perspective, how many of them would you take right now over Dak Prescott? The obvious one is Mahomes, because we're not drunk. We all know that. Deshaun Watson, that's a no. He actually was bad this year, and imagine if Dak blew a, 28-0, 28-3, whatever it was, playoff lead. Imagine that conversation. Kyler Murray played even worse the last time we saw him in the regular season and the playoffs, and Russell Wilson is apparently cooked a little bit there. Now, I don't think you have to get to the Deshaun Watson guaranteed number. I think depending on how you do the structure of the contract, whatever, maybe you just go a little bit above Russ, and then once Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, other quarterbacks who are due for new deals in the not-too-distant future, once they get paid again, well, then we're right back where we are right now, where your very expensive quarterback isn't actually top 5 at his position, and since he's not a top 5 QB, that's actually a pretty good balancing act as far as I'm concerned. Now, I'm also on board with what Jerry Jones floated out there. He said the Cowboys will commit to drafting a quarterback this year, and he wishes he had done that every year in the past. And I'm actually totally on board with both extending Dak, or at least restructuring his deal, and drafting a QB too. The upside, especially on day 3, makes it worthwhile. Make no mistake, the odds of getting another Dak, another Brock Purdy, for example, are actually very low once you remember how many quarterbacks get drafted each year and how many, you're more likely to get a Stephen McGee or Ben DiNucci than a Dak Prescott or a Brock Purdy. But the upside makes it worthwhile once you remember, players get cut too. So 10 names on this list. You probably have to take Richardson in round 1, which I'm just terrified of that. I actually don't think Tanner McKee's that good. I don't get it, but he could be your day 2, early day 3 option. If I can get Hendon Hooker in the 4th round, I'm actually kind of intrigued by that. I don't know if he gets there. And then kind of everyone else is maybe just draft one of them in the 6th round. Whether it's a Jake Haener, who I like, Max Duggan, Stetson Bennett, Aiden O'Connell, Jaron Hall, small school guy, and Tyson Badger from Shepherd, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, if you just want to make sure you have some mobility, which I think is essential there. Totally down to take a quarterback, especially on day 3. It's a matter of, is this the quarterback class to really bank on getting a guy earlier than that? I'm not so sure, but 6th, 7th round especially, I don't see any real downside there, because what's the worst case that ends up happening? Well, they get cut, like a lot of 6th and 7th round picks. So what do you guys think? Would you draft a quarterback this year? D for draft, P for pass. Get those votes in for me right now in the comments section. Folks, if you have not already, please make sure you are subscribed to us here on the Cowboys Report. Free videos every single day and sometimes multiple times per day. And we keep you guys covered with everything going on around the Cowboys, including the offensive coordinator search. Told you guys, it's a loaded show today. The Cowboys, this was broken a day ago, I believe, interviewing former Panthers, or I should say interviewed former Panthers running backs coach Jeff Nixon for the vacant offensive coordinator spot. Nixon was a Matt Rule guy in Baylor. He was the co-OC and running backs coach. Went to Carolina with Matt Rule. Actually was the interim OC in 2021. And then got the assistant head coach title this year before that staff all got fired. The Cowboys also interviewed, and this one's very intriguing to me, assistant head coach of the Los Angeles Rams, Thomas Brown. Now, Brown would be, of course, a non-play calling offensive coordinator candidate. He was the OC in Miami 2016, 2018. I believe that was with Mark Rich, if my memory serves me correctly. It might not. Then South Carolina running backs coach has ascended kind of quickly in LA to their assistant head coach title, or associate head coach title. Common thing on both guys, by the way, running backs coach / assistant head coach in a non-play calling OC role. They haven't really done that much OCing in the past, a little bit. Brown has gotten head coaching interviews. This could get, in my own favorite shows, 2 birds stoned at once. You knock out your running backs coach job, and you kind of knock out your assistant head coaching job too, with a bit more of some management rolling stuff in that OC role, and kind of get the vibe that maybe Jerry's not going to pay for as many coaches as he did last year for Mike McCarthy. In the end, though, I would still keep an eye out for Brian Schottenheimer or Ben McAdoo, especially with a guy like Jeff Nixon. Maybe he's your RB's coach and you keep Schottenheimer or McAdoo if you bring him on after he got fired by the Panthers, who, again, worked with Jeff Nixon in that OC slot. I think that level of guy, those 2 interviews and a Schottenheimer or McAdoo, I would like Brown quite a bit. Maybe get me something resembling the McVay scheme in there. Any of those hires I think would be more in line than the we're going to hire Eric Bieniemy type of mold in the end. Now, who do you want to hire as the Cowboys OC? You can be optimistic there. Let me know in the comments section which offensive coordinator you guys want to hire this upcoming season. I will make note of this. Jerry again said Mike will call the plays, so it's going to be a McCarthy offense with more elements of that Green Bay Packers that kind of got outdated scheme, but whatever. Albert Bree reported today or yesterday that Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore didn't get along that well at the end of the tenure in Dallas, and yeah, that shouldn't surprise anyone, right? I don't think Kellen Moore would be gone if things were great between him and Mike McCarthy. That just kind of makes sense that it didn't work out at the end, and whether Kellen was forced upon Mike or Mike actively chose Kellen and just it was time for a change, whatever the real reason was, that kind of tracks out as far as I'm concerned. So Mike is the play caller. There will be a new OC, but again, a non-play calling role does keep the interest a little bit down on that front. Before we go, we'll pour one out for the Sean Payton rumors as the Broncos have traded for Sean Payton. They get a 2024 third-round pick in exchange for a first and a second. Now, from a trade value standpoint, you're looking at around a mid-ish first-rounder, potentially more depending on how the Saints and Broncos finish next season. That's a lot to pay for Sean Payton, who statistically is basically just Cajun and Mike McCarthy. So I don't think I would have done that. And by the way, that also makes Mike McCarthy cheesehead Pete Carroll. Like all their resumes are very similar, as it turns out. And then I guess that makes Pete Carroll Starbucks Sean Payton. I don't think I would have done that trade in the end. That's too much for me for a coach, even though I think Payton's a little bit better. But is he a first and more better? I'm not so sure.